central to me in printmaking is that it's a strong form of reduction. So like my teacher in school, in art school, one of the first things he taught me said that art is the art of leaving things out. You know, there's everything around you, but you can't see anything if everything is there. So this reductive process happens all over the world in all cultures. Like one of my favorite things in the world is Chinese and Japanese brush painting, particularly the Zen style painting, because no color, no undo button, total commitment, and you only boil it down to the essential. The same thing happens to me in the woodcut. Either you cut it or you don't. All the methods in printmaking have exactly that. They kind of eliminate a bunch of choices. I'm not a painter because I have too many choices in painting, I feel. That confuses me. I don't want that many choices. I don't need all those colors. Give me something you have 8 colors to do it with. Now I have a challenge. And now I have to simplify and still get it across somehow. That's so working against boundaries forces you to be more creative because you just don't have everything at your disposal. You know, and the process is self-limiting. So what can you do with it? And that's the greatest challenge of all, to make it work in that. And then it, as a result, as a payoff, it becomes very strong graphically speaking. If I look at Japanese characters, I can't read them, but they're beautiful marks to me. Or Arabic writing, I can't read it either. But they're beautiful, they're like pictures, they're mark making, just like drawings. I use that kind of thing a lot of my work because I think elements of type or writing is all about design, it's all about shapes and marks. So by putting them together, they kind of inform each other because you can get words in there that mean by themselves already something. You get the marks as a benefit in there, you combine that with visuals, so it goes back and forth and makes the whole thing stronger. And in terms of printmaking again, it basically has started at the same time, right? When Dirk was cutting his wood blocks, you know, just 50 years later, Gutenberg was printing the word. And of course, right from then on, words and pictures have gone together in forms of books. And that's what I've been doing lately, actually, a lot of it. I always have used text in my work, but now I'm actually doing artist books as well. Right, so this project is started innocently as a little attempt to do some demo woodblock prints and then mushroomed into this rather large undertaking. It's based on an idea that I had a long time ago to do an Americanized version of the old Dance of Death theme, which originates in the 14th century in Europe, mostly depicted in churches as murals, depicting the skeleton representing death, teasing and playing instruments on people of society, all the way up from the emperor down to the peasant. Okay? And the story is that basically death reminds us that we're all the same at the end. Death is the big equalizer, so you should not be arrogant in your life, you can't take it with you, all these kind of things. So it was very popular and got particularly popular after the big plague in Europe that wiped out large parts of Europe. So it became a very popular theme and has been reinterpreted by artists ever since. This is another elephant volume, 23 inches tall. It's an accordion book called Boots. It unfolds to 14 feet long, so it's one continuous strip of paper. The subject matter of this one is the Iraq War and the consequences of it. In this case, about the veterans that came back, like the physically and mentally maimed. And this is has text panels with the lyrics of the song Boots by Lee Hazelwood. And you get the same beauty that you get in the woodcut, you get it for wood type as well. The little slightly imperfect, not computer typeset, real, tangible, three-dimensional, very shallow, but three-dimensional result. Paper, it's a beautiful thing, and I love what paper does. So traditionally, if you go to commercial print shops, like Gemini or something like that, I mean, paper has to be pristine. If there's anything wrong with it, any little crease or something, that will not be a good print because of the commercial value and resale and this whole structure there. That's not how I think about paper. Paper for me, it's a very living thing. I mean, actually compared to digital stuff, we know that things on paper will survive much longer than any digital format because the format keeps changing and nobody can read the old format or it disintegrates. Paper, we still have from a couple of thousand years ago and we still can look at it. So paper is therefore for me a living thing and a very great cultural asset to humankind. As printmakers, we know which paper we're supposed to use for what, although you can use the Japanese papers for everything, but you can use the rag papers for everything. So for example, when I do larger work, woodblock prints, which come from boards, from solid boards, the woodblock is never flat. So I don't print them on a press, I print them by hand. And the only way to do this is use a strong, thin paper, which means it has to be washy. Some kind of strong, thin paper. You could not do this, or at least I can't do this on rag paper. For that you need a press. Also, I like when paper ages. And good paper, there's the cheap paper like newsprint, of course. That's not the kind of aging I'm talking about because it disintegrates, it's not meant to last. But the Japanese papers, some of the Chinese papers and the rag papers, they're meant to last for a long, long time. I have some tools here. They're sharp, but I use a piece of leather to keep sharpening them while I work in between, just honing them. So I just have this piece of leather that I just stroke, my chisels, my huge chisels. And the way I test them against my nail. So if it sticks like this, I'm not trying to cut myself. If it sticks, it means it's sharp, right? So if it catches on the nail, if it would slide, it means it's not sharpening. And sharp tools are very important, to avoid injury, because if you have a dull tool, you have to apply more pressure, and more pressure means you lose control and you slip more easily, and that's a dangerous thing. So when you pick a tool and you want to cut, you have to have different choices of profiles, and it stands to reason that a bigger tool would make faster work of cutting out bigger areas or big shaped areas like this. But that's not really the case. It's not different than carving a small, delicate piece, because for that type of cutting area, for this much, you have to apply much more pressure than when you have a small tool. So whenever you have to apply more pressure to do the work, you give up control, right? So you can, therefore, what you do, you compromise between the two, you use both. So you outline the critical areas with a small tool because you gain all the control you want, okay? And you outline it before you then switch to the next tool, and kind of start clearing out more. And then when you're really kind of done, and then you can take the big tool and remove more material. But you wouldn't use this big tool close to sensitive areas, because then you're more likely to cut into it. And since there's no undo button, can't fix that easily, okay? So I'm just cleaning up the block a little bit here, and I'm carving away from the crucial areas into the non-important areas. So I don't carve this way, I carve this way. Also, like I tell my students, don't carve like this, it will slip into your hand. Keep the hand behind the blade. The next thing that's kind of important when you do woodblock prints like that, I can sometimes cut like this. That works because you make very short paths. But if you're really interested in control, what you do, you slow the tool down. So let's say I want to cut around here, instead of freehand like this, which is again subject to slipping out, I apply the pressure, but I also push down on the tool. By pushing down on the tool, you slow the tool down, and you can really go very precise around protecting the areas you really want to protect. If you look at it as an artist, so I see myself, yeah, I'm a printmaker, but for the main part, I'm an artist. I just chose this medium because I feel it appeals to me the most. So when I want to say something or do a piece or anything, as an artist, I look for what I want to do, what is the best medium, what are the best tools, what is the best process to use to get there. And then I would pick whatever it is. And for me, you can do something in a woodcut that you can't do in any other process. I would not try to do a painting in a woodcut, that's insane, right? And the other way around, you could not paint something that looks like a woodcut. It would be also pointless. Maybe you can, some people do crazy things, but I think use the medium that's the strongest for where you want to go with. And you don't get any blacks blacker than in intaglio. Sorry, it's not possible, right? So use that if that's what you're after, tonality and richness and stuff. You don't get grain and texture and stuff like, you only get that in the woodcut. You can't fake this stuff, not even digitally. And if you would, it would be pointless again. So I think as an artist, one should approach, what is the best tool for what I want to do? And in that sense, printing is right there with everything else.